What if one of the most iconic love stories ever told finally got the continuation fans have been dreaming about? Imagine Julia Roberts and Richard Gere stepping back into the roles that made them legends, returning to the big screen after more than 3 decades. The idea of Pretty Woman 2 isn't just about revisiting a romantic comedy. It's about exploring what happens when fairy tales grow older, when love faces the real test of time, and when two people who once defined romance for an entire generation try to find their way back to each other. This is not just a sequel, it's a chance to witness a brand new chapter filled with nostalgia, its emotion, and the kind of timeless charm only Roberts and Gere can deliver. Asterisk back in 1990. Pretty Woman wasn't just another Hollywood romance. It became a cultural phenomenon. Directed by Gary Marshall, the film told the unlikely love story between Vivian Ward, a lively and free-spirited woman played by Julia Roberts, and Edward Lewis, the wealthy businessman portrayed by Richard Gere. It was a story that mixed humor, passion, and transformation, giving us the kind of cinematic magic that made audiences believe in love again. Julia Roberts became a household name almost overnight, and Richard Gere solidified his place as the ultimate leading man of the era. The movie wasn't only successful at the box office, it became a part of pop culture history, remembered for its unforgettable scenes, the shopping spree montage, the balcony flowers, and of course, Edward climbing up to Vivian's apartment in the film's final moments, declaring his love in true fairy tale style. For years, fans have quoted the film, replayed the soundtrack, and held on to that dreamlike romance. But what truly made Pretty Woman stand out was how it showed love as a force that could transform lives, breaking through class barriers and personal insecurities. The film's ending wasn't just about romance, it was about hope, about the possibility of starting over, and about the courage it takes to believe in someone else. That's why decades later, people still ask the same question. What happened next? Did Edward and Vivian live happily ever after, or did life challenge their fairy tale ending? The thought of a sequel taps directly into that curiosity. Imagine a story that doesn't just recreate the past, but expands on it, showing us how love evolves through time. Pretty Woman 2 as a concept is about revisiting those feelings while asking deeper questions. What does love look like after years? Can passion survive when faced with life's ups and downs, career changes, family pressures, and the reality of growing older together? By bringing Roberts and Gere back, the sequel wouldn't just be about characters, but about the actors themselves, two legends returning to prove that their on-screen chemistry can still spark magic in a new generation. The legacy of Pretty Woman is its ability to capture hearts, no matter the era. Whether it's a first-time viewer or someone who saw it back in theaters in the 90s, the story remains timeless. That's why a sequel in 2025 would not only honor its past, but also redefine romance for today's audience. It's about nostalgia, meeting modern storytelling, and about giving fans the answer they've been waiting for after all these years. Asterisk, picture this. It's been more than 3 decades since Edward and Vivian first found each other in the most unexpected way. The glamorous world of Beverly Hills, the limousine rides, the extravagant shopping trips, all of that is now a memory. In Pretty Woman 2, we don't just jump back into their story at the same place we left off. Instead, we explore what happens when love has lived through the test of time. This is not about recreating the old moments, but about writing a new chapter that reflects the beauty and the struggles of life after the fairy tale, in this imagined sequel. Edward and Vivian have built a life together, but it hasn't always been easy. Edward, once a powerful businessman, has shifted his focus. He's no longer just chasing money or closing big deals. Instead, he's grappling with the idea of legacy, wondering what truly matters after years of success. Vivian, on the other hand, has carved out her own journey. No longer the woman who needed saving, she has grown into someone who inspires others. Maybe she started a foundation to help women find opportunities, or perhaps she pursued a career that reflects her strength and independence. This shift allows the sequel to highlight not just their romance, but the evolution of two people who have been changed by love and by life. But no love story is ever without conflict. The heart of Pretty Woman 2 lies in the challenges they now face. What happens when the spark that brought them together starts to fade under the weight of time? What happens when past insecurities resurface, or when outside pressures test the bond they worked so hard to build? The concept of the sequel explores this reality with depth and honesty. It's about discovering that love is not just about falling for someone in a perfect moment, but about choosing them again and again. Even when life gets complicated, the new story could also introduce a fresh angle, perhaps a younger character, like their daughter or son, who represents a new generation of love and independence. This creates a powerful mirror effect. The struggles of the young echo the struggles of Edward and Vivian in their youth, reminding audiences that love stories are universal, timeless, and ever-changing. Through this, the film could show how Edward and Vivian's past experiences guide the younger generation, while also forcing them to confront their own flaws and fears. Visually, the sequel's concept would balance nostalgia with modernity. We'd see flashes of iconic callbacks, the limousine, the opera, the luxurious dresses, but now placed in a new context, filled with maturity and deeper emotions. The film would not just aim to make us smile, but also make us reflect on what lasting love truly means. It's a story that asks, can a fairy tale survive the weight of reality? And answers it by proving that love, when nurtured, can grow stronger with time. This imagined version of Pretty Woman 2 isn't about redoing the past. It's about expanding it. It's making it richer, more layered, and even more relatable. About showing that even after 35 years, Edward and Vivian's story still has something new to say. The imagined trailer for Pretty Woman 2 2025 would not simply rely on nostalgia, but instead weave it with fresh emotions that feel modern, yet deeply connected to the original film. It would open with a quiet, almost haunting shot. Edward, now older and more reflective, gazing out the window of a high-rise building in New York City. The camera lingers on his face, capturing the weight of time and experience. A voiceover calm, but filled with longing whispers. Some love stories never truly end. They just wait for a new beginning. Immediately, the audience is drawn into the question, what has become of Edward and Vivian's love? The next moment cuts sharply to Vivian. She is walking confidently down a city street, no longer the woman who once struggled to fit into a wealthy man's world. She carries herself with grace, her smile warm but touched with maturity. A quick montage shows her life's journey helping others, laughing with friends and pausing to reflect on the love she once knew so intensely. The trailer's early moments are designed to pull on nostalgia while making it clear that Vivian Demise has evolved into her own person, their own dreams and responsibilities. Then comes the first emotional punch, the scene of Edward and Vivian locking eyes across a crowded gala. The camera slows, the music swells, and for a split second, it feels like time has rewound. The chemistry, that undeniable spark, is still there, but the years between them cannot be ignored. Edward smiles faintly, as though unsure if he still deserves her presence, while Vivian's eyes soften with recognition, but also guarded hesitation. This moment would instantly hook longtime fans, showing that the magic is still alive, yet layered with years of untold history. The trailer then quickens its pace, offering glimpses of the struggles they face in this new chapter. Edward is shown wrestling with his health and stepping back from the corporate empire he once ruled, questioning what truly matters. Vivian is seen juggling her own responsibilities, possibly leading a foundation or mentoring young women, proving that her life has never been defined by his wealth. A subtle conflict emerges while they still love each other. They must figure out if they can balance their separate worlds without losing what brought them together in the first place. To add depth, a younger character enters the frame perhaps. Their grown daughter or a close protege of Vivian's. This character provides a modern reflection of love in a new era, facing challenges of independence and identity. Scenes show her questioning Edward and Vivian's choices, forcing them to confront their own fears and inspiring them to rediscover why they fell in love all those years ago. The inclusion of this storyline adds fresh energy, ensuring the sequel resonates with younger audiences while staying true to the roots of the original film. Visually, the trailer would mix glamorous callbacks with heartfelt intimacy. A shot of Vivian trying on a red dress, echoing the original shopping scene, but now with elegance and confidence rather than surprise. Edward arriving at her home, this time not climbing a fire escape, but standing vulnerably at her door, holding a single rose instead of a bouquet. A dinner scene filled with laughter that turns into silence as unresolved tension rises. And finally, a stormy night where Vivian walks away in tears, only for Edward to run after her this time, not as the rich man saving the pretty woman. The heart of Pretty Woman 2 doesn't only lie in its story. It thrives in the undeniable star power of Julia Roberts and Richard Gere. When audiences think of timeless on-screen chemistry, these two names are always near the top of the list. Back in 1990, their pairing was lightning in a bottle. Roberts' charm, mixed with Gere's sophistication, created a dynamic that audiences couldn't look away from. Now, more than 3 decades later, that magic carries even more weight, because of the passage of time. Seeing them together again wouldn't just feel like watching two characters reunite. It would feel like seeing old friends step back into our lives, reminding us of an era when romance was pure, heartfelt, and unforgettable. The nostalgia factor would be a powerful driving force for this sequel. Think about the cultural imprint. The original movie left behind. Lines like "big mistake," "huge," became part of everyday conversation. The red dress, the jewelry box prank, the opera scene, these moments weren't just scenes in a film. They became symbols of 90s cinema. Audiences who lived through that era would feel a rush of memories the second Roberts and Gere appear on screen together again. But it's not just about replaying those memories, it's about reimagining them for a new generation. Pretty Woman 2 would have the unique opportunity to bridge the gap between nostalgia and modern storytelling, giving older fans what they've longed for while showing younger audiences why the original was so beloved. Julia Roberts herself represents more than just Vivian Ward. She embodies growth, resilience, and the lasting power of a performer who can balance charm with depth. In the sequel, she wouldn't be the wide-eyed dreamer anymore. She would be the wise, mature woman who has lived, loved, and learned, carrying with her the confidence of someone who has truly grown. Richard Gere, on the other hand, would bring to the screen a softer Edward Lewis. No longer the corporate giant defined by money and power, he could now be portrayed as a man reflecting on life, yearning for meaning beyond material success. Together, their reunion would feel like a cinematic event, not just another sequel. Nostalgia would also be woven into the visuals and sound of the film. It's the return of iconic motifs such as Edward's limousine, Vivian's playful laugh, or even a subtle nod to the original soundtrack would give longtime fans goosebumps. Imagine hearing the faint notes of it. Must have been love in the background during a pivotal scene, not as a repeat, but as a reimagined version, softer, more emotional, symbolizing how love itself has matured. These small but powerful callbacks would elevate the film from a simple sequel into a true homage to the original masterpiece. But here's the most unique aspect. Pretty Woman 2 wouldn't just celebrate nostalgia, it would redefine it. Instead of relying solely on past memories, it would use them as stepping stones to craft something entirely new. It would remind audiences that romance doesn't stop at youth, that passion can exist at any age, and that love stories don't need to fade with time. By bringing back Roberts and Gere, the film would highlight a type of storytelling Hollywood rarely invests in anymore. Love that lasts, grows, and becomes even more meaningful with age. In a world of reboots and recycled plots, this sequel would stand out by offering something both familiar and fresh. The nostalgia would pull audiences in, but the performances of Roberts and Gere, their maturity, their warmth, their humanity, would keep audiences glued to the screen. For fans who watched Pretty Woman in theaters back in 1990, this film would feel like revisiting a cherished memory. For new viewers, it would be an introduction to what real, authentic chemistry looks like. Either way, the star power and nostalgia would create a cinematic experience that transcends generations, reminding us why this story captured hearts in the first place and why it still matters today. Asterisk, as the imagined trailer for Pretty Woman to 2025 reaches its final moments. The emotional intensity rises. The music builds into a stirring crescendos, something orchestral yet tender, echoing the timeless romance of the original while carrying the weight of years past. The screen flashes through a rapid sequence of scenes. Edward and Vivian laughing together in a rare moment of lightness. Edward standing alone in a dimly lit office staring at an old photograph of them. Vivian wiping away a quiet tear as she looks out at the city skyline, and finally, the two of them walking toward each other through a bustling New York street, as if the world around them has disappeared. These glimpses aren't about revealing the entire plot. They are about reminding the audience of why this story captured their hearts in the first place, and why it deserves a continuation. The voiceover returns. Perhaps Vivian's this time gentle yet full of emotion. We thought our story was over, but sometimes love writes its own ending. Those words linger as the screen cuts to black for a moment, leaving only silence. Then, slowly, the iconic title appears. Pretty Woman 2, the edition of 2025. Beneath it solidifies the film as more than just a nostalgic dream. It feels real, tangible, and possible. The build-up in this final section is not only about hype, it's about legacy. By the time the trailer closes, the audience doesn't just want to see Edward and Vivian together again, they need to. They want answers. Did their love survive the test of time? What lessons have they learned? Can a story that once ended in a fairy tale still hold the same magic after life's trials? These questions hang in the air, fueling excitement and conversation long after the trailer ends. The emotional hook also works on multiple levels. For longtime fans, this is a chance to revisit a memory that shaped their idea of love, to relive the laughter and tears that once defined an era. For newer audiences, it's a chance to discover that not all sequels are about action or spectacles, some are about connection, growth, and the enduring human desire to be loved. That's the beauty of Pretty Woman 2. It doesn't need to reinvent the wheel, just needs to remind us why love stories matter, no matter the decade. The closing moments of the trailer would seal this emotional promise. Imagine Edward reaching for Vivian's hand, his voice soft but certain. After all these years, you're still my once-in-a-lifetime. Vivian looks at him with a mix of tears and laughter, replying with a line that echoes the film's original. Fairy tale magic, and you're still my prince, even without the fairy tale. The camera fades as they embrace, and the music soars one last time before cutting to silence. The screen fades to black, leaving only one line. Coming 2025, fall in love all over again. This closing build-up isn't just about teasing. A sequel, it's about reminding audiences that some stories never truly end. They live in our memories, our emotions, and our desire to believe in love. Pretty Woman 2 would represent more than a film. It would symbolize the return of hope, nostalgia, and the kind of romance that Hollywood rarely gives us anymore.
Die.
The end of this imagined trailer, one thing is clear. Audiences would be ready, waiting and eager to fall in love with Edward and Vivian's story once again. Asterisk.